welcome back to ALTV.
In the last video, Prue and Sammy told you all about the layout of your CV.
And in this video, they will tell you about all of the common mistakes and how to avoid them. And I can almost guarantee that you've done some of these yourself.
Amber, guess what?
What?
Do you know there are two types of accountants?
What are you on about?
Those who can count and those who can't.
Oh my gosh, when will it end? Anyway, here's how to avoid common mistakes.
We thought we'd carry on the conversation on CVs this time round and look at common mistakes that we see in CVs and how you can avoid them. So starting off, if you've got A-levels, show the grades. If you've got GCSEs, show the grades. Even if they're bad, show them. Because if you don't show them, the employer will assume the worst. And normally when I've been in this situation and I've had CVs, that is the worst. Because when you ask the question, they go, oh, and you don't want them to ask that question in an interview because you'll just feel embarrassed. So it's much better to get it out of the way.
There's often a really good reason why the grades are bad. You know, something's gone wrong along the journey, and you know, that's fine if you're upfront about it.
Because you can always add that to your CV, and people do have difficult times in life, and there's no problem putting that on your CV. Just don't leave gaps.
The same applies to job history, actually. So again, if you've had quite a lot of jobs and so on, but there's a gap in the middle, immediately it raises alarm bells. What is that gap for? What were they doing? You know, were they unemployed, or did they go on a sabbatical or a trip around the world or whatever? Whatever you did, just say what you did, because again, a bit like with the grades, an employer will often understand if you've been upfront about what that gap was.
And it is always a good idea to say why you left the job, because if on your CV you've got 40 jobs, people are going to think, oh, how long are you going to stay here? But there may well be reasons why you move from job to job, because the contract's finished, you've grown out of it, you're moving on to take your job further, but it's useful to put down a reason why you've moved on.
Yeah, job hopping is never one we're too keen on when we see CV.
Always proofread your CV. If there's a typo in the CV, that's just going to wind up the employer. They give a bad impression because they think, well, if you can't be bothered to get your CV spelling right, what are you going to be like at work? And old people like me, spelling is important. Don't use text in CV or text language in CV, because not for old people like me, because if you're dealing with accountants, they're not always as old as me, but they're going to be wanting you to deal with customers, with suppliers, in order to be able to spell well.
In particular, the contact name as well. I mean, I'm sure you get your name spelt incorrectly sometimes. I certainly do. I get called Prune goodness knows how many times. So right, that's going to one side. We know of an employer as well. If you happen to post your CV, which is a really good thing to do make sure it's spelt correctly, you know, the name and the address and so on. We know of this employer in particular, if there was one single spelling mistake in the address, straight in the bin, didn't even bother reading it. So it's really important.
And it's not just that employers are nasty, but they may well have 50 or 100 applications for a particular job, and they're going to be sifting them, and they have to have a way of sifting them, so they can end up with a dozen that they can really spend a bit of time reading. So you've got to bear that in mind. Yes,
and likewise in the CV, it should be a maximum of 2 pages, that's double-sided. Some people tend to witter on too much, so they rabbit on about yeah, they rabbit on about all sorts of things, and I know I've read CVs that are really long like that, and you know, by the end of page 2 you've kind of lost the will to live, so just make it really relevant and don't rabbit on about all sorts.
And if the job ad asks for a covering letter, send a covering letter, because again, if there will be plenty of employers, if they ask for that and you don't send it, they'll just throw away the CV because they'll think, well, you didn't take our instructions, what are you going to be like at work? So read the guidance, read what the job ad says.
Thank you for watching.
After watching that video, how many mistakes have you actually made in the past?
Let us know in the comments.
Bye!
Bye!